back here on the Matt Kern Show, our second video. We're going to preview tonight's Thursday night football matchup between the Seattle Seahawks and the San Francisco 49ers. This one from Santa Clara at Levi's Stadium. Should be a good one tonight. It should be a good defensive battle, as it usually is between these two teams.
Yeah, it will be a defensive battle, like you said. It is most of the time that these two teams play each other, and it always comes down most of the time to 3 points, 6 points. It'll be a good game tonight. The Seahawks are going to need to get another running game going because they just, when they can establish a strong running game, it makes them very tough to stop. Russell Wilson doesn't have to have a fantastic day by any stretch of the imagination, but it should be a good game. I'm going to predict the Seahawks will win this one, though, just because, they really need to win this one, because right now Pete Carroll and that whole entire team is under a lot of stress and a lot of heat.
Yeah, I agree with you. They need to run the ball early and run the ball effective throughout the entire game. A big part of that, though, is the offensive line. They really must step up in this game and protect Russell Wilson and then open up holes for these running backs, Marshawn Lynch, Thomas Rawls, and Fred Jackson. Marshawn Lynch has been limited this year due to injury, but if he can get back on track, I fully anticipate them to win this game. He has not had a 100-yard rushing game this season, but the last 3 years against the Niners, he has had 135 carries, 579 yards, and 3 touchdowns. This Seattle team plays San Francisco quite well. They only have one loss to them over the last 3 years. Kaepernick is 1-5 against Seattle, including the playoffs. He has a quarterback rating of 18.3. Let's talk about Kaepernick for a sec here. And if the San Francisco 49ers want to win this game, they're going to need to do so behind good quarterback play with Kaepernick.
Yeah, Kaepernick's going to need to step up in this game. He's going to need to have a good game. He can't force the ball, especially into this Seahawks defense, because they have so many guys that can make interceptions. Sherman, Thomas, Chancellor. He needs to get the ball out of his hand quickly, or the Seahawks defensive line will rush him. And, Kaepernick just can't play scrambling the ball the whole entire time.
Yeah, this offensive line for the Niners, on the flip side, they haven't been that good either. The Seahawks defensive line has been all right. It's not the same defensive line as it was back in 2013. You have players like Cliff Averill who have taken a step back, and Chris Clemens. Those guys aren't playing to the elite level that they once were. They are, however, playing pretty good in the secondary apart from the fourth quarter. In the fourth quarter, quarterbacks have had a 130.6 passer rating against the Seahawks in that final frame of the game. Last week it was Cam Newton who drove down 80 yards with less than 2 minutes to play and got the final touchdown, game-winning touchdown. He did so just picking apart the soft zones. He found soft zones in that Seattle cover 3 and was able to pick them apart, particularly on the last play to Greg Olsen, that touchdown. He just found Olsen right in between the cornerback, Richard Sherman, and the safety, Earl Thomas. He was right up the middle of the seam. There's been a lot of miscommunication for the Seattle defense so far this year. They're going to need to get back on track. I expect them to win as well, just like you. It should be a good game, a defensive game, as this game typically is. But what are your keys for the game? Let's start with the Seahawks. 3 keys.
Well, they're going to need to run the ball. They're going to need to have better communication on defense because, as you said, they've given up the most fourth quarter QBR in the league. And then also I'm going to say that Jimmy Graham needs to take a role in this game.
Let's see. I will start with containing Kaepernick. One of the big reasons the Seahawks have had success against him is because they've been able to keep him from scrambling around. This is a very athletic defense. They're going to get Bobby Wagner back tonight, middle linebacker, and he's a heck of a football player. They can spy Kaepernick, and really they force Kaepernick to beat him with his arm, which is something he can't do really well. So that's one of the big reasons they've had success against him. So definitely keeping control of Kaepernick, keeping him in the pocket. Number 2, I'm going to go running the football, like you said. They got to get Thomas Rawls and Marshawn Lynch especially, even Fred Jackson too, on some passes out of the backfield, but specifically just running the football better. They have got to do that. And lastly, getting Jimmy Graham involved. He was involved in the offense quite a bit last week. Getting Russell Wilson into a rhythm, throwing him the football. Those are the things that they need to build on. But San Francisco-wise now, what are your keys for the game against the Seahawks for the Niners?
Well, first I'm going to say stop the run, because, I mean, if you stop the run, then that's really half the battle. Because Russell Wilson, I mean, he can throw the football extremely well, but he's not a great pocket passer quarterback. Next, I'm going to say that, I mean, overall, Kaepernick has to have a good game, and so does the running game with Carlos Hyde. And then finally, I'm just going to say that this 49ers team, their defense needs to play really good.
Yeah, definitely. I'm going to go getting the deep ball involved. This team, the Niners, they really need to open up shots downfield. That way they'll get some pressure off the receivers. Otherwise, Seattle will just tee off on them. When throwing the deep ball this season, these stats are according to Pro Football Reference. Kaepernick is 16 of 29, 448 yards and 3 touchdowns. That's in 6 games, so he's got to get better accuracy-wise throwing the football. We've seen it the last 2 weeks, although they were playing two teams that have struggled defensively, especially in the secondary, in the Giants, and last week against the Ravens. They got to be able to stop Marshawn Lynch. He's had big games against the Niners. They've got to be able to contain him. He's had 45 carries, 214 yards, and 2 touchdowns against the Niners these last 3 years. Containing him is going to be key. Otherwise, if he gets going, it's going to be really hard for this Niners team to stay in this game. As for Kaepernick, he's throwing for 40.3%. That's his accuracy percentage when pressured. So Seattle needs to get after the quarterback. When they do so, they're a much better football team. Kaepernick likes to throw to fullback Bruce Miller in the flat. He's a good fullback. We saw a lot of play actions last week where he would hit Miller in the flat. That also sets up the deep ball too, so Seattle has got to stay on their heels. They typically do, and not letting that play action disrupt them. Well, before we tune out of here, any last words from you in this game?
Like I said before, I'm just going to go with the Seahawks in this one.
Yeah, I think so too. One last thing real quick. When running up the middle, Seattle is averaging 4.73 yards per carry. When they run off their right tackle, Gary Gilman, they run for 6.7 yards. So look for a lot of interior runs. Left defensive tackle, Glenn Dorsey's going to have to do his part. The Seahawks team likes to run off their right side, the left side of the defense. So it should be an interesting game, though. I'm going to go 13-3 Seahawks. I think it's going to be a low-scoring game.
Okay, I got 16-10.
All right, folks. Well, that's our preview of tonight's game. Thank you for tuning in. Logan, thanks for coming in on the show.
Thanks.